Welcome to our YouTube series, 5 Days to Better Health.
And today we're talking about digestive health.
Yes.
And it's my impression that when people come and see us in the surgery, they're often focused on symptoms. So it might be indigestion, heartburn, it might be abdominal pain. And outside of the surgery, everyone's focused on all the stuff they're reading and hearing about, the latest supplement, the latest thing that we should be doing. And what concerns me is that people aren't really focused enough on the normal functioning of the gut and why that is so important in terms of our immunity, about not just absorption of essential nutrients, but making vitamins, making sure we've got enough of the good bacteria as opposed to the pathological bacteria. And there's a job of education still to be done.
It is. And there's so much information, isn't there, online, in books, and it can get quite complicated when we talk about gut health and the microbiome and the shoulds and what we shouldn't be doing. So we want to keep it as basic and as practical as possible.
And that's actually really important. So, you know, there are still people who eat late at night. So, you know, the body can't digest, you've got a full stomach and then you want to try and sleep. Your body's overheating, you feel uncomfortable. So just eating at least 2 or 3 hours before you want to go to sleep, go to bed, that's important. Drinking enough water, again, that's something that many people, probably myself included, sometimes forget to do. The simple things, maybe not eating on the run, but sitting down to give your digestion a chance. These are simple things that people often forget, don't you think?
Yeah, totally. And one of the things I say to my patients, because we're coming into kind of autumn winter time now as well, and people will be coming in with coughs and colds, and there is a slight expectation that they'll get antibiotics. But people forget, you know, antibiotics kill your good bacteria as well as your bad ones. So when we say it's a virus, you don't need antibiotics. We're doing that for your sake, not for our sake. And you want to keep your gut bacteria as healthy as possible. And taking on antibiotics when you don't need them kills them.
Absolutely right. I think, you know, in terms of our diet is important for normal gut function. I mean, people are still eating far too less fibre. I think the average is about 18 grams, should be nearer 30. So more fruit and vegetables with all those nutrients as well. You know, and it's not about the fatty stuff, it's about the basic stuff, getting all the food groups in the right amount.
That's right.
So important.
Fibre is such a buzzword, isn't it? Because when you go to the supermarket, you see loads of things that say high in protein, low in fat, but what you want is high in fibre. And fibre is a magical kind of substance to eat. As you say, you find it in a lot of plants. So all your fruit and veg, but don't forget your nuts and your seeds and your beans and your pulses, all of those great things. And fibre is what we call a prebiotic. It feeds the healthy bacteria in your gut. But it does so much more than that, doesn't it? It can reduce your cholesterol levels. It can help manage your blood sugar levels as well. And it can keep your immune system, as you say, healthy.
90% of our immunity stems from our gut. You know, and so does serotonin, the happy hormone in our brains that increase our mood. So if we've got a happy gut, we've got a happy mind, if you like, and people sleep better and everything works better. But and there are so many things that are important. Exercise is important too. So when we're stressed, you know, we switch off the normal workings of the bowel. Everything stops. The bowel becomes almost paralysed. When we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're depressed, things don't work so well.
They don't. And you mentioned exercise. Exercise is so important because it releases, when you move and you contract all your muscles and you're moving, doing things you enjoy doing while you're moving, you're releasing all these anti-inflammatory chemicals. Scientists sometimes call them hope molecules. They're called myokines, and they can reduce inflammation, not just anywhere in your body, but particularly in your gut. And if you're combining that with fibre and nutrient-dense food, you can reduce your risk of irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, and in some cases, reduce your risk of bowel cancer as well. So it's super important.
You'll have heard this before, but I remember a consultant telling me during my medical training, if you want to avoid problems in your digestive system, no hurry, no worry, no curry.
No curry?
It's a bit unfair. No, I know it's a bit unfair. But obviously, if you've got a burning heartburn, you don't want too much of the spicy stuff. But there are things that we do to ourselves, like alcohol and spice and ultra-processed foods, which clearly are not going to help us.
No. And this is the thing, because we always talk about, you know, plant-based things that we should be eating. And there isn't anything, you know, there's no wrong foods, but there's foods that we should have less of, isn't there? And that's where these term processed and ultra processed comes through. And again, that can be a confusing word. A processed food is just anything that's been changed from its original form. And a lot of the time, that is okay. But ultra processed is when lots of things have been added in. So you're talking salt, sugar, E-numbers, colours, all of those emulsifiers. And the reason they're bad is actually because they are harmful to our good bacteria, aren't they? So it's not just like you're eating them and they're not feeding them. They're actively destroying your gut bacteria. And so by reducing the amount of ultra processed food that you have and replacing that with nutrient dense whole food is the key. I like to think of it as a garden that you're tending to, and you want to feed it properly so it can grow and treat you. Because there's nothing nicer than going out into a beautiful garden, is there? You're a gardener. And so going out into your beautiful garden of gut health by feeding it the right stuff, then you're on to a winner.
No, I absolutely agree. And you know, so we talked about things that we shouldn't have too much of. We're talking, if we talk about processed red meats, for example, that may be overcooked, those chemicals that can build up in the gut. But nothing wrong with red meat. A very good source of vitamin B12 and iron and other nutrients. But they're reckoning about 70 grams twice a week, something like that. I believe is what we're saying. Not every day. I mean, if you're having sausages and bacon and chips every day, there's no such thing as bad food. It's about moderating your intake. Balance.
It's always about balance, isn't it? And that's what we're proposing with this, because it'll be very hard for people to kind of go from one type of diet to another one. And so we want to ease people in, because if you change your diet all of a sudden, particularly if you get lots of plants in, it can bloat you, it can make you gassy. That's okay, that's part of the process. But what we want is for people to introduce more plant days into their week, even if it's just starting with 1 day a week. And that's what we're proposing, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Little but
small steps, But you're right about the bloating and the fibre. But I think it was Jasper Carrot, the comedian, who said that after 3 days on the F plan diet, he understood what F stood for. And he's right. I mean, yes, too much too soon is counterproductive. So introduce the fibre gradually. You can change your nutritional intake. I don't use the word diet because people think it's to lose weight.
Yes.
Nutritional intake. It's got to be balanced, it's got to be moderate, eat regularly, plenty of fluid, and not worry too much about the fatty things that you hear on social media. I think that's important.
It's going back to basics, isn't it? Going back to basics, to the kind of food that our ancestors may have had more of, and all of that kind of homemade, cook meals from scratch. That way you know what's in it, and you the idea is really to get as many plants as you can into that 1 day that you're changing. And you're supposed to be having around 30 plants a week. And that to some people seems inconceivable and not possible. But when you think of it, it is, spices are plants, nuts are plants. I've got the best nut box ever that I take to work. And I take it to work, and rather than snacking on, because patients bring in you know what it's like, Helena. Bring in chocolates, and it's so tempting to eat them. But with my nut box, I keep saying nut box, it's making me laugh. But with my nut box,
couldn't possibly comment.
I snack on that, and walnuts in particular are amazing, aren't they? But those kind of small changes. If you're a snacker like I am, be prepared. Take things in that you're healthier snacks, and so you're less likely to go for the chocolates.
And if you like sweet things, a few raisins in there as well with the nuts is nice. So I think, there we go. I think if people take these things on board, we might have less patients come into the surgery complaining of indigestion.
That is true. One of the first things I always say to my patients is, what you do for your body is so much more important than anything that I can do for you. Any prescription I can write pales in comparison to the food you eat, how much you move, how much you sleep, and how well you look after yourself. That is the best medicine of all.
What was it Hippocrates said? Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. He wasn't far wrong, was he?
Yes. And was it Gillian McKeith who said, you are what you eat?
There you go.
They're not quite the same.
Exactly. Well, less patients in the surgery then.
Yeah, perfect.
There you go.
Our top 3 tips for good gut health are the 3 Fs: fibre,
frequent exercise,
and fermented foods.